handful of friends posted pictures of eagles on the sea, and when I saw those posts, I knew it's somewhere I'd like to be.
Thank you for tuning in to Hannah and Eric Go Birding, a podcast by birders for birders.
I'm Hannah and he's Eric.
We created this podcast to share adventures, sometimes misadventures, and opinions that we have on different birding topics. We're definitely not experts, and anything that we discuss that might be controversial, I want you to remember their own opinions, and they might be different from yours. So, looking at the song for the beginning of this, I had no idea how that was going to go. Like, I didn't... I was like... It just kind of seemed like a story, but then it worked. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm getting into, like, folk singing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
you know.
Like storytelling?
Yeah. Yeah, I need, like, a banjo with it. So... we have tufted puffins. Yes.
So you went out this morning and saw a ton of common murres out there.
Yeah, I saw like 2,000 or so. And they were on the haystack rock, which is, you know, there's all these parts of the cycle of them returning for the year. And I hadn't seen them on the rock yet. Mm-hmm. So that was really exciting.
Yeah. So typically the order of operations, we'll see a couple of murres out in the ocean. Then we'll see big flocks of murres out in the ocean, not on the rock. Then we'll see one or two puffins mixed in. Out in the ocean, swimming or flying around. Then the puffins will land, or then the murres will land, and then usually within a couple of days after the murres landing on the rock for the first time, that's when the puffins start landing.
There was a bald eagle on top of the rock, though, so that can always scare off different things. But like I said, I was excited to see the murres up there.
Yeah, they'll start testing out their spots.
So if you are coming to Cannon Beach, Oregon over the summer, which is a very popular tourist destination, but it's also a great place to see tufted puffins. Check out our Facebook page. I'll throw it on the website too. To come out and join us for a puffin walk. We do free puffin walks throughout the summer. I think we have 32 dates scheduled, and that's a lot. I didn't realize we had that many. That's just when it works for our schedule. So if you're coming and none of those dates align with when you're going to be here, just send us a message and maybe we can work something out, because we want to make sure everybody has the chance to see tufted puffins.
And if we can't, we can absolutely give you a ton of information. Send you a little picture of where they're typically at for the season, if it's late enough for the season for us to know.
I made a brochure that has circled, like, this is where the puffins are. So I hopefully have made it idiot proof.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, super excited about puffins being nearly back. We've seen puffins flying around. We haven't seen them on the rock yet, so it's getting close.
Yeah. So something else to mention, I have a Substack. So if you're a Substack reader, and I've had it for years, but I didn't get into it until just a couple weeks ago when people were talking about it, and I was like, I should give Substack another try. Yeah. So if you want to check out my Substack, it's at Hannah Goes Birding. And I haven't been posting long articles like some people do. It's more just like small posts, but who knows where it'll take us.
Yeah. So we have talked about this a couple of times, but in October, we're going to Costa Rica.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so we've partnered with Naturalist Journeys to put on this trip. Super excited about it. We're going to the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica, or kind of coastish, Caribbean half of Costa Rica. Yeah, and it's a part of Costa Rica that we haven't been to yet. Super excited about it. We've been to the Pacific coast. We've been to central, like the interior, but we haven't been up to the Caribbean coast. So I'm super excited about it. We only have a couple of spots left. And then the trip is a go as soon as those are filled. But we're getting really close. We're
about 6 months out. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm getting excited.
Well, and there has been a lot of uncertainty that's caused people not to travel so much. Mm-hmm. Like, we work in the tourism industry, so we're totally aware of that. But yeah, as we're getting a little bit closer, you might consider like, hey, it's just a couple months out. Let's check it out, because I don't know if everybody's planning trips like long in advance right now or doing shorter times. Mm-hmm. But we'd love to have you join us. Like Eric mentioned, there's only a few spots left. And if you are single traveling by yourself, Naturalist Journeys can help you find somebody to go with, to room with. And, I'm always a little hesitant and not sure about rooming with other people, but it's worked out really well in the past when I've had to room with somebody. So don't let that deter you from coming on this really fun trip with us.
Yeah. And I'm mostly really excited about it because last time we were in Costa Rica, the autofocus on my camera was broken. So I only have like 30, 40, 50. So I have a very small number of pictures that ended up in focus because I was trying to manually focus on everything, and trying to manually focus in a thick forest is very, very difficult. Apparently, I don't know. I felt like I was going back years in technology, but I have a camera that works this time, so I am very, very excited about getting tons and tons of photos of all sorts of just bright, colorful tanagers and all amazing birds. Hopefully a bunch of really cool lifers.
Oropendulas.
Yeah. So I really want to get some better photos of some of the things that I got that were out of focus last time, and this time get some lifer birds that I can get photos of.
And it'll be a nice chill trip, like we are pretty informal in the way we do things, and we just want to have a good time, and that's what we can promise.
Yeah. So if you want to come with us in October to Costa Rica, you can check out the link in the show notes. I think we have a couple posts on Facebook about it.
Yeah.
Or you just send us an email, and we can put you in contact with the people to get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, so join us. So we have a couple folks that we want to thank for supporting our show using our Buy Me a Coffee, and it's someone who wishes to remain anonymous and Mammy. So thank you both so much for supporting our show. We really appreciate it. And if you want to do so, you can go to our Buy Me a Coffee to buy us a coffee if you'd like. But also on there's an extras tab where you can buy some of my earrings that I've made if you want. We have keychains, hats, and then I have shirts that we put on Bonfire, which is another service to sell things. And somebody asked us the other day, like, why do you have so many stores? And it's because Bonfire makes each shirt individually once you order it, so we don't have to carry a stockpile of shirts. So I did put a weird tab on our Buy Me a Coffee to help get you to that point of Bonfire. It says it's free, but obviously it's not free because you'll have to click on that to go to the link to find whatever you like.
Yeah.
But we have a Tough to Puffin shirt we put out the other day. We have other Hannah and Eric Go Birding t-shirts.
Yeah.
So if you want to check that out, just go to our Buy Me a Coffee and look for the extras tab.
All right, so Hannah has episodes of other podcasts that come out in between episodes of Hannah and Eric Go Birding. So you have Women Birds Happy Hour and Bird Nerd Book Club. Women Birds Happy Hour came out last week, and you had Nina Hale on it?
Yeah, so Nina Hale was with me, who does birdsong bracelets, which are these really fun bracelets that she uses the spectrogram of bird calls for endangered and extinct birds to help make jewelry that highlights, some different things about that specific species. So it's really fun. I really enjoyed chatting with her. And check out that episode anywhere you listen to podcasts.
And then Bird Nerd Book Club next week comes out. You read a book, interviewed an author. What book did you read next week? What book did you read next week?
So for that episode, I have Maria Ruth, whose book, The Bird with the Flaming Red Feet, Seasons with an Uncommonly Common Seabird, comes out pretty soon. It is a very fun read about pigeon guillemots. As I was reading, when I saw the title of it, I was like, how can somebody have written a whole book about pigeon guillemots? Well, she did, and it's a lot of fun. So check it out anywhere you listen to podcasts. So Eric, we're going a couple places.
Yeah, so like we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we're going to Costa Rica in October. If you want to join us, links in the show notes. You just send us an email too, and we can put you into contact with how that works. So you can join us in Costa Rica in October. And then in November, we actually just talked with the coordinator, and we're kind of like, oh, I don't know if we're invited. He was like, the fact that you keep saying that concerns me. But he's like, of course. So Rio Grande Valley Birding Festival in November, first week in November. Very excited about that. Can't wait to get back to the Rio Grande Valley. We literally just got back, but I can't wait to get back down there. So I'm very excited. I love the Rio Grande Valley. It's a great time, great food, great birds.
Well, and also something else that we should mention, we're doing a talk for Orange Audubon Society on May 28th at 7 East Coast time. You forgot, didn't you? I
didn't forget. No, I just, it wasn't in our list of stuff to talk about. So I forgot that we needed to talk about it.
Yeah, so if anybody has an Audubon Society or Bird Alliance or a bird group that is doing virtual programs, please reach out to us because we'd love to do a program for you all.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun just talking.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. All right, so April giveaway. April actually has three Thursdays in it. 3 every other Thursdays that line Thursdays? Up into it. That so you get an extra week. I don't think we even mentioned that during the last episode when we announced what our Bird Nerd giveaway was for the month. But we have Japan gifts. We have laminated field guides, some snow fairy chopsticks, and some other stuff that we're excited to give away. And the deadline is April 28th, so you still have another 2 weeks before you need to get us your information. We've got a ton of stuff in already, a bunch of emails, a bunch of comments on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So if you really want to enter, You just have to tell us what your favorite winter birding spot is. It doesn't have to be like a destination you're headed out to. It could be your backyard or someplace. We're just kind of looking for some ideas, maybe, of places near other people that we can go birding.
So yes, your backyard.
Who knows? I'm just saying.
We'll show up.
I'm just saying. But yeah, just let us know by April 28th what your favorite winter birding spot is, and you'll be entered to win this Japan prize pack.
So in our last episode, we talked about going on the nature cruise where we had seen some seabirds and gone around these really cool islands that were windswept and had horses on them that we didn't end up seeing the horses.
No, didn't. Yeah, we didn't. It was the only thing we saw was like the sea lions and or seals.
Sure.
I don't remember. There were some mammals. I don't even think we discussed it, but they were on the shores of it. But I think they were harbor seals on the shore. But that was the only mammals that we saw on the island. Yeah. Interestingly.
Yeah. So we got off that cruise and got back in the car and headed to a wayside because we were on our route to go to the Blakiston's fish owl.
Yeah. So that was kind of the target. But I really wanted to mention this stop that we made because there's this region, the Betsukai region of Hokkaido. I think it's a city of Betsukai, but apparently it's the number one place for cows in Japan, and they're very proud of it. They're very proud of their milk production. They're very proud of their ice cream. They're very proud of their cows that they have there.
Which is funny because like one of the towns south of us here on the Oregon coast, Tillamook,
is also very proud of their cows.
It's kind of the same thing.
It's a very cow area. So yeah. We got out of the car there, and it definitely smelled like we were in a cow area. Yeah. It smelled like we were in Tillamook, which nothing wrong with that. It was notable.
Cows are around.
Cows are around. But they have a tourist welcome center, and there was all sorts of information about the amount of milk that they produce, the number of cows, how the number of cows exceeds the number of people within the area, which is interesting, and all of this stuff. But they also had this giant monument representing the Japanese people mourning the loss of 4 islands that were off the coast. So you could see the islands. A Russian occupation took over the islands, and they ended up putting up this memorial of the Japanese people mourning the loss of these islands. These used to be our islands, and now that the Russians have taken it. So I thought that was really interesting, and it was a very, very large monument dedicated to that symbolism there.
Yeah, so we went inside, used the bathroom. Mm-hmm. They have a little tourist center where you can buy milk-related products, and we got some ice cream. Yeah,
and ice cream. We had ice cream a handful of times while we were in Japan, and like it was just like regular ice cream, but I've never had like unflavored ice cream, which I think is basically what their ice cream is.
Well, it like doesn't have sugar in it. Really.
It was like very low sugar. There wasn't flavor, so it wasn't like vanilla ice cream. It was white. I was expecting vanilla, and you're eating ice cream, and it's like, no, this is just milk.
Yeah,
it's
solidified milk.
Solidified milk, which is interesting. I've never had that before. Which maybe someone's going to give me a hard time about that in comments or something. But I've never had just like ice cream that was unflavored.
Yeah.
of anything in particular. Which it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was just.
Also, it felt healthier because it was like this is like it's not like a giant sugary treat. It tastes good, but it's a treat, but it's not like packed full of sugar like American ice cream.
I know, but we all sat around together like just eating ice cream. It's like we're 3 adults sitting around eating ice cream cones.
It reminded me of the episode of Seinfeld where I think you said this when we were there, like where
they're all having a chew.
They're all having a chew. They're all sitting around chewing some bubble gum.
Yeah,
and we're just sitting around having a chew, like just sitting around eating some ice cream.
No, but it was a nice stop.
Yeah.
So we got back on the road after that, and we're still headed towards the town to the Blakiston's fish owl, and there was one species that we had not seen yet that I really did want to see, which was Asian rosy finch. And there were a couple spots when we were like closer to Nemuro that it was like, oh yeah, we'll definitely see Asian rosy finches, and then we didn't because they're kind of nomadic, so they're like not like pinpoint they're going to be right here.
It's very similar. They behave very similar to the rosy finches in the United States. The three species of rosy finches that we have here, where they just kind of move around through the winter, and they'll go to good habitat areas and eat some food, and then just keep on moving. So if you have like a feeder set up, a lot of times they'll come by, swarm the feeder, and then leave. And so you never know what time of day they're going to be there. They just kind of come and go.
Yeah.
And so they act pretty much the same over there, the Asian rosy finches. So we were just kind of like hoping we see some, is hoping we happen upon the feeding flock somewhere. And we were driving north, and then just randomly I saw a bunch of people standing on the side of the road as we're driving through some area, getting pretty close to where we were going for the night. And there was like some random people standing on the side of the road. I was like, hey, what are these people looking at? Like, and Koji was like, oh, they're probably landscape photographers or something. And then I noticed like a couple small things in the field. I'm like, no, I think this is a bird. And then so we pull over for a second, and it was Asian rosy finches. It was a pretty large feeding flock in a fallow field. It was just like all in the snow eating. I put 53 on the list. I think that's probably pretty accurate. But it was a big flock of Asian rosy finches just hanging out, just gorgeous, like just like the rosy finches over here.
Yeah.
Just kind of like finch shape, and then just like a kind of barely rosy side to it.
But it's just a testament to like how many birders there are there. That there was a whole group.
Yeah, there's a whole group of people there out of nowhere. Just like we're on the side of the highway, just right there.
Like the whole thing kind of reminded me of being in Zaxxon Bog. How like no matter where you go in Zaxxon Bog, like in the winter, there's photographers and birders there.
Just around.
Yeah, that was kind of how Hokkaido was.
Yeah,
or like in that section of Hokkaido, it's like everybody we like stopped and were around were birders. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of birders that go there.
Yeah.
So we only had a few hours until it was our scheduled time to go to the fish owl spot. Not enough time for like sit down dinner. So we stopped by a convenience store that was right next to the hotel to pick up some ramen. And like I had to take a picture because this was a rather small convenience store. I mean, like the size of like a typical 7-Eleven. Yeah. And they had one entire aisle that was all like freeze-dried ramen.
Yeah, it was maybe 200 varieties or so of different ramen. So it's like, it's impossible to choose.
Which I totally expected. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of ramen. Not a big deal. But to see that much variety was just like shocking to me.
Yeah. It was a lot of different things, and it's like I have no idea how to even choose.
I know, I had choice paralysis.
Yeah, it was like I'm just gonna close my eyes and reach out and grab one.
Yeah,
that's good enough. We'll see.
So our hotel was right next door, so we went over, got into the hotel. Very nice hotel, and it was more traditional Japanese, where you had to leave your shoes at the entry, and then they had sandals for you to put on. There was a couple different room options. We had a large Japanese suite that had the tatami mats and the futon mattresses on the tatami mats, but the room was ginormous. There was like a dining room in the back that could be transformed into like a couple more beds in there. There was a ton of bedding in the closet, and then there was like a really nice big bathroom, toilet room, and then a sink, and then on the other side of like that little section, the wing of the room, there was a really deep bathtub, and then like an open shower and a hot stone lounger. Yeah. Which was my favorite part of the room, and now I want one.
Yeah, I had never thought that a hot stone lounger would be something, but now I wish in our remodel at our house I had planned on that bathroom.
Oh my gosh, I would never leave it.
Yeah, so really, really cool, nice room.
Very fancy room.
Yeah. And also kind of had a nice view, too.
Yeah, so it did. It was ocean view. Yeah. So we didn't have quite enough time to like to eat our ramen because we weren't really hungry at that point. We had just had lunch beforehand. So we lounged around for a minute, had a cup of coffee before it was time to head off to the fish owl spot.
Yeah, so we left. It was around 5 o'clock when we headed over to the fish owl spot. There's a small like riverside lodge that was like maybe 5 minutes or so away from the hotel we were staying in. Apparently, that lodge was sold out, and that was the idea was that we were going to stay in that lodge initially, and then it was sold out, so we couldn't stay in that lodge. So we stayed at this other hotel. But it very much reminded us of when we walked up, like a rustic, like
diner,
like think Waffle House sort of thing, like. Where it just had bunch of people. They were like sitting at like a makeshift table eating dinner. As we walked in, they
had all these little hot pots too. Like I didn't really want to stare at anything anybody was eating.
Yeah, it's like they were eating dinner, and we were just kind of passing through that portion of the room.
But it looked like they all had like some little heated hot pot thing in front of them. So yeah, was curious what they were eating.
But it's like a big blind that's maybe 40 feet long or so, 50 feet long.
It's kind of like if you had taken a modular home or a mobile home and just had all glass on one side of it, like all windows on one side. Like it was pretty narrow, like maybe 10 feet wide.
Oh yeah, it was very narrow, yeah.
Yeah, and had just chairs set up in front of these windows.
Yeah, so we got to our assigned window. If you go and stay there, or if you go see the owl at this location, you tell them, oh, I want to stay here. They assign you a window, or whichever window is available. I think it's first come first serve for the better viewing windows, and then your name is on a piece of paper. They just have your name propped up against the window, and you get there, and that's this is your assigned window. You get to sit here until it gets really, really late, and then people are just kind of filtering it out, and then it becomes a free for all later. But early in the evening, it's assigned. You have an assigned window. You plop down, and I was kind of concerned because they had these windows, and it's like, okay, so you can open the window a certain amount, but only a little bit. But then turns out they just removed the entire window, and so we plopped down, and after like an hour or so, everything was dark, and they were like, all right, well, the owls should be any time now. So they came through and just removed all of the windows, completely exposing us to the elements. Luckily, or unluckily, they had some kerosene heaters that were behind us that were pumping out the smells.
So we had a friend, Jeremiah, go and do this a couple years ago, and he was telling us about it, that there's these kerosene heaters, and like he thought he was gonna, get high from inhaling all that. But like when we went, it was, and so I had like a picture of what it was going to look like in my head. And when we went there, it wasn't quite that, because there were so many people in this building, and it was so cold. We were barely at the kerosene heaters because we couldn't get into it. There were so many people. There were so many people around.
Yeah. So we're sitting there shivering like the whole time.
Yeah. Outside of the building, there's like a little stream that goes through, and they had these big lights lighting up where they anticipated the owl would be. So I mean, the whole thing kind of to me felt like staged.
It's very staged. It's a wild owl that comes in. It comes in and feeds at the creek, but it's been doing it for years. So they know, oh, okay, it comes over, it lands on this rock, it does this over here, and then it goes down and feeds. It's all a thing. And so they have these big bright LED lights that shine down that they tell you, okay, well, you have to set your camera to these settings, because if you set it to these settings, the shutter lands in between the flicker on the LED, so you can get good photos of this owl sitting on the ice or sitting in the snow. So it's a really good photographic opportunity for photographers, but it seems unnatural-ish as a birder, because it's like, oh, it's not a feeding station, but it's essentially a natural feeding station.
So this was the species that we had like traveled halfway around the world for.
Yes.
So we really wanted to see it. Right before we had gotten there, somebody said that they were telling Koji, or a guide, that they had heard it call at like, I don't know, 4:30 or something like that. And so we're like, okay, cool. The day before it was here at 10:30. Yeah. So maybe we'll just get lucky. Like we said, we got there at 5. 10 o'clock rolled around, nothing.
Well, it was like 9:30. Red fox comes out and wanders through the whole place, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Got a couple of photos of the red fox.
Yeah.
And then it came and left, and then it came back at like 10:30.
Yeah.
And then it came back at 11. And it came back at 11:30. And it's like, is this fox gonna be scaring the owl so the owl isn't interested? Because it just kept walking through, and then it would leave for like a half hour, 45 minutes, and then it would walk back through. So we're sitting there, getting colder and colder, and just waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's getting later and later. And Koji turns to us at like 11:45, and he's like, "How much longer you guys want to give it?" And we're like, "I don't know."
Well, and a lot of people had left around 10.
Oh yeah, it was because that was kind of the expected time that it may come by. So the place mostly cleared out. We were down to only like 10 people.
Yeah.
Or so. So we had this building that had 50 all the way down to like 10 by the time that time rolled around. So it was like, all right, well, we have more space, so we can stand in front of the heater. We can be a little bit better because we're in front of the heater now.
I was miserable, though. Like, my hands were freezing. My feet were freezing. I had put, like, the hot pads in my shoes. That was not helping. I had these little hand warmers.
It was below freezing, yeah.
These
it was
electronic hand warmers that were not helping. I just sat in a chair in the back and kept, like, nodding off.
Because we'd also been up since 6 a.m. or so.
I know, but I was thinking, like, if this is hypothermia, I mean, it's taking me.
It's taking you.
Yeah. So it was it was really miserable. And around midnight or so, we finally, or I think it was 12:30 when we finally left.
It was around 12:30 when we finally left, and it was like, all right, well, I guess we're not going to get it. So we went back to the hotel.
Obviously, we were very disappointed.
Very disappointed. Went to bed. Woke up early because we were going out on a boat the next morning. That was also another complication. We were getting up early to go on a boat at sunrise. So we went back to the hotel, went to sleep, woke up, went out, met up with Koji at the car, and Koji was like, so apparently they saw the owl at 2:00, and we're like, an hour and a half longer and we could have done it. But it was like, well, that also was like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
Like the owl only showed up like 4 hours ago. We would have had to stay up the entire night.
So later on, we found out that there's some people who like they stay there until a certain time, and then they'll go back to the hotel and take a nap, and then come back around like midnight or 1, because that's, I mean, the owl typically like comes and goes and isn't real set in the time it comes. So if you decide to end up going, that might be an option. So you don't have to sit there for 7 hours in below freezing temperatures.
Yeah. Or also, the other thing that Koji told us is a lot of people go in the winter to go see this owl, specifically because they want photography. They want to take a picture of this owl on the snow, because it's really cool to see pictures of this owl holding fish in the snow, do all that stuff. It's really good photography. Mm-hmm. But in the spring, a couple of months from when we were there, it becomes substantially more regular. Yeah. Like it's usually feeding chicks, so it needs to come back.
Fish more frequently.
It needs to fish more frequently. So it comes by a lot more frequently, and it's easier to get, easier to see in the spring, but there's no snow on the ground then. So it's a different experience, but it's more likely to see the owls. So if you're going, you don't have to go in the winter. We thought you had to go in the winter when we booked this, because that's when everyone that we knew went. Everyone we knew went in the winter. So I was like, all right, well but apparently that's just for the photographic opportunity.
Well, the other reason to go in the winter is what we're going to talk about in a second. But exactly. I just wanted to mention that we did have breakfast at the hotel. It was continental breakfast. Mm-hmm. It was, oh my gosh, so many fancy options. There was a whole tour bus of well,
it wasn't continental. It was a big buffet.
Okay, sorry. Yes, buffet. There was a whole tourist bus that was there, and everybody's having breakfast. So that hotel is very busy, but really nice. We got in the car and we headed to what the winter birding thing is the Sea Eagle boat ride. Yeah,
so in the winter, frequently, it doesn't happen every year, but it only happens during the winter, and it happens most years. Climate change is causing it to happen less. But drift ice from Russia out of a couple of rivers comes out, freezes up, and then drifts past northern Japan, and that drift ice is kind of a destination location for sea eagles. And there's both white-tailed eagles and Steller sea eagles that kind of go out to these ice flows, this drift ice going past, and they're out there. In general, they're going to be out there fishing for cod and Alaskan pollock, but the sea ice gives them a location to target. It gives fish kind of hang out around it, and it also gives boats a location to target to go out and try to find them.
Yeah, so this boat ride that we were on, the Shiritoko boat ride, is very popular, and they do a lot of these cruises. Unfortunately, a lot of them end up getting canceled because of weather conditions, but also if there's no sea ice.
If there's no sea ice, or if the sea ice is too far offshore, because it only spends the sea ice. It's drifting on the ocean currents, so it'll drift by, and sometimes it'll come close enough that you can get to it. Sometimes when it's drifting, it drifts too far away, or you only get a couple of days worth of sea ice. So it's kind of like a unknown every year if the drift ice is going to be close enough to be able to get out there and get to it.
And so somehow the stars had aligned and we were able to go out on this trip, which I feel so super lucky that we were able to go on the other cruise. Mm-hmm.
Because it had been canceled every time up until we were the first one to run for like a month.
Yeah. And also this one as well. So this one, we left at about 8 a.m. and the boat was pretty full of people, but there was plenty of space to walk around and look. There was an upstairs also.
Yeah, it was kind of the same size as like a large pelagic ship out of the U.S.
So everybody loaded on the ship and we headed off. The Eagles were about 6 miles offshore, the drift ice.
Mm-hmm.
So it took us only like 30 minutes or so to get all the way out there. But along the way, right after we crossed out of the marina.
So some of the flattest ocean I think I've ever seen,
Yeah.
honestly. So when we've a couple of times we've gone out and we've described some of our pelagic trips as like, oh, the water was glassy. Like this was legitimately like, there wasn't even any waves. Like I don't know how. I was like, are we even in the ocean? I don't really understand. Like literally just flat. It was.
Well, it's the Nemuro Strait.
Yeah, I guess
So.
it is so flat. Like this is ridiculous. And like I could see our wake behind us going way out and then dissipating to get flat. It was the weirdest experience. I feel like how flat that was.
Anyways, so once we had left the marina, there was our lifer thick-billed murre.
Yeah,
there
in that flat water.
Yeah, which was very exciting.
Very easy to see because the water was so flat. It's just like this one bump, and it's like, what's that? Oh, that's a thick-billed murre. Lifer thick-billed murre. Not really that far away either.
No,
but just perfectly flat, so you could just see it sitting there, just doop doop doop.
Inside the marina, there were also pelagic cormorants and Japanese cormorants, red-breasted mergansers, harlequin ducks. So there was a lot of things moving around in there. About 10 minutes into the voyage out to the drift ice was when we started seeing the eagles coming from
3 miles offshore or something.
Yeah, we started seeing the eagles come from the mainland to like pace the boat and then go past the boat, out to the ice. So they were leading us out there. And Steller seagulls are the heaviest eagle, weighing up to 20 pounds. So they're a massive bird.
They're a big bird.
Yeah.
Heavy bird.
So we were the first group to get out there, and there were, I think, 6 boats.
I think it ended
total.
up about 6, yeah.
Yeah, but we were the first ones to get out there, and it's a special boat that has like ice breaking capabilities on the front of it, so it's sturdier.
Yeah, it's a little sturdier, but yeah, it's weird.
I thought we were gonna just go like around the ice floe, but no, we just like plowed through it.
Yeah, they just like they basically came to a complete stop outside of the ice, and then just like slowly and then just worked our way into the ice, and then shut off the engines. Like we just sat there in the middle of the drift ice. And that's all of the boats out here. They all did that. They all, once they got out there, they stopped and then just slowly pushed their way into the ice and then stopped. And so we're just like sitting in the middle of this ice, completely surrounded by ice, completely surrounded by eagles.
Yeah. Like
this is like this experience of just like surrounded by eagles. The deckhands were up on top of the boat, chopping up fish and just using this homemade chucket thing to like fling fish like 30, 40, 50 feet away from the boat on either side. And the eagles, they would just hop down. They were fishing on their own in between the chunks of ice. And then when they would fling a fish, a couple eagles would go flying over and just like go to town on that fish. And so they've become kind of generally accustomed to boats come out here to this ice. So when this ice is here, not only is it good for just fish because it's fishing, but they also just get fish flung at them.
But it was so funny because like they would fling it and it would land in like a little like trough in the ice,
puddle or something.
Yeah, a puddle in the ice, and the eagle would like stand there and look at it like, I don't want to go in there.
I don't want to get wet.
Yeah,
it's like that's what you do.
But they are the most massive, beautiful birds I think I've ever seen. Like there's been the one that's in the northeast of the U.S. and Canada that a lot of people have seen, and I just like haven't prioritized making the trek out there.
Yeah.
But when we saw these eagles, it's like I totally get it. Like they are just massive and beautiful and so fun to watch. And I mean, we were within like 5 or 10 feet of some of them as the boat was kind of circling around and they were getting more and more bold.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just a stunning bird.
Yeah. So we were out there for over an hour and a half, just enjoying being near these guys. They're like chirping and making all sorts of noises. And they're just like these massive animals that are just like right around the boat hanging out.
Yeah.
It was a very cool experience just being out there, and they're not able to do it every year, and a lot of times, like Hannah said, they get canceled for weather or the drift ice isn't close enough for them to get out to. But these boats, a lot of times they go out for whale watching too. Like the rest of the year, that's kind of what these boats are doing, is going out doing nature cruises for whale watching and other sea mammals, just random seabirds, stuff like that. But this is like the big ticket for them, is getting people out to the sea ice or to the drift ice to see sea eagles. So there was like Hannah said, it's like 6 boats out there, all kind of just floating around. Spent a couple of hour and a half, almost 2 hours, just floating out there before all right, we got to go back.
And there was one guy that saw us and, assumed we spoke English and came over and chatted with us for a few minutes. And he was saying that he had booked, he goes on it every single year and he books like 2 or 3 days because he never knows when it's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a testament to like how amazing the experience is that like, people will go and go again. I had people Facebook messaging me. They're like, oh yeah, I did this and I would love to go back. So, I mean, it's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were very lucky that the sea was flat that day. It was sunny. It was cold. And I was freezing towards the end of it. But it was an incredible experience. So we got back to the marina, had a bathroom break. And I had to mention this because it's so, I don't know, shocking to me. There was a vending machine right outside the bathroom, and like if you go to Japan, there is a ton of vending machines all over the place. We were out in the middle of these farm fields where it looks like who's even out here, and there would be a vending machine. Yeah, and
it's got power. You put a couple of yen in there, and you get yourself a coffee or a soda or whatever out of the machine.
So I don't know why this shocked me, but Koji was like, "Would you guys like a coffee or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll get a hot chocolate," because that was just the first thing that looked recognizable. And so I put my money in there and pressed it, and out came this little can. I mean, it was like one of those like V8 tomato juice cans. Yeah. It was pretty small.
Like 6 ounce can or something like that.
Yeah, of hot chocolate. And it was piping hot. Like, I don't know. And you got a cold drink out of there, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a cold brew coffee.
Yeah.
So I got a cold brew coffie, which makes sense. Cold coffee.
Sure.
That's something. Normally we see cold coffee out of a machine. That's not cold drinks out of a machine. Not a weird thing. And I know hot coffee out of a machine isn't that weird, but hot coffee in a can seemed interesting. It seemed weird to me.
It was so hot though.
Yeah, like literally like cold coffee comes out and then hot chocolate. Like I don't know why it's so interesting, but it is interesting to me.
Because we don't have that here.
I guess we don't have it. Yeah. But so we got our pick-me-ups to continue on since we only had a couple hours of sleep, so we just needed a little bit of caffeine to keep going. Headed down to there's a peninsula, the Natsuke Peninsula, which is not really that far. It was kind of on our way to our next hotel.
Yeah.
And we ended up running into, there was a really nice visitor center, tons of foxes out there. The foxes
and deer.
The invasive deer were everywhere.
Lots of big bucks.
Lots of bucks. But we ended up running into Charlie Hess, which he's a guide with tropical birding. We know him. We've met him a couple of times, and he's the host of Naturally Adventurous podcast, which we were on one of his episodes like 3 years ago.
That was a couple years ago.
It was a few years ago. Great guy. Had a nice conversation with him. He had to take a selfie with us because we were just like, what are the chances we're just going to randomly run into somebody that we know?
Well, and he'd
out
been
here on this peninsula.
When I posted on Facebook that we were there, he had been messaging me to be like, "Oh, it'd be funny if we ran into each other," and so then we did.
And it was like 2 days later. We were like driving along, and then he's driving by, and it's like, wait a minute, I recognize that guy. And then he pulls over, and he's like, Hannah, Eric, and it's like, oh hey.
You go halfway across the world and you find people you know.
Yeah, seriously.
But it was a really nice nature center and had a great little museum upstairs that we didn't really walk through too much, but like food and merchandise and tons of snow fairy things. So if you like long-tailed tits, which are called snow fairies also, that was a good place to find some gear for them.
Yeah.
So we kept on moving along towards our final destination for the evening, but we stopped by one really cool spot called the Shibitsu Salmon Park and Salmon Science Center, which we didn't go inside of it, but they have like nice trails outside of it. It was all snowy. I mean, like just like a foot of snow around here, which was funny that we never really ended up seeing it snow. Like we kind of did for the red crown cranes.
A little bit, yeah.
But I was hoping to see some actual snow because it's been years since I've seen
it actually snowing.
Yeah, exactly. We only stopped there for less than an hour, but we had a pretty good flock of long-tailed tits and other tit species like marsh and Asian. We had both carrion and large-billed crow, bulbuls.
Japanese pygmy woodpecker again.
Yeah, and really good looks at it.
Yeah.
And also Eurasian bullfinch, which we hadn't seen yet in Japan. So that was another good one to add to our list.
One of the targets that Koji had for that spot was the red crossbills. Because there's not a lot of places that you can get red crossbill in the winter, I guess, out there. But he was pretty excited. We had a small flock of 3 fly over. I heard him. We hear him here in Cannon Beach pretty regularly. So it's like something we're familiar with. And it's like, oh, that's familiar. Oh, crossbills. So they land, and we get a very brief look at them as they're flying past. Koji was pretty darn excited. He's like, he really wanted to get us on him, and it's like, it's not really a lifer for us. We have him in our backyard pretty regularly. We saw him, heard him. It's good, but it was a big target for him for this spot. But I thought it was interesting. It was the salmon research center, and there was these ponds outside that are all full of carp. Oh, it was like, why? Okay, it's sure, but it was like, why is there carp in this like pond outside of a salmon research?
Well, we didn't go inside. Maybe we would have known if we had gone inside.
Maybe they would have told us, yeah. If we would have learned.
We would have just been like, those actually aren't salmon outside. And they'd be like, oh, so glad you told us.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Koji had to point that out too. He's like, look, not salmon.
So from there, it was about maybe an hour or so to our final destination, which is the Yoroshi Hot Springs in Onsen. And this was probably the fanciest lodge that we've ever been to. It looked like
anywhere.
It looked like a ski alpine like lodge.
Oh yeah, it was. This is definitely a very like high end lodge, fancy schmancy location. That hot tub, like the whole thing is. And
Koji had told us that when we were eating dinner that a lot of Japanese folks, they don't have a whole lot of time to take for like vacation or anything, and so there's these places like this lodge that is kind of like a staycation sort of situation. Like you go and you like can lounge and have nice meals and everything. So that's kind of how like he uses these locations.
Yeah.
But when we first got in, we had to take off our shoes, which was kind of an ordeal, especially for Eric, because he has to unlace his shoes, and I was wearing extra tough boots or slip-on.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention this. Probably should have mentioned it earlier, maybe in the first episode, but if you go to Japan, you have to remember, especially if you're going in the winter, that you're going to have to take off your shoes in a lot of different locations, and the only shoes that I had that were waterproof and warm-ish was some hiking boots that have some waterproof hiking boots that are pretty thick. I wear thick socks with them, but they require a bunch of lacing and unlacing to get them on and off, and so it makes it difficult to take them on and off regularly. And then when you're trying to carry all your camera gear and your binoculars and like in some cases all of our luggage too at the same time, it can be frustrating. So keep that in mind when you're packing to go to a place like Japan where you have to take them off. And like this lodge, they have a whole area. It was a little bit easier because the area was big, but it was still, you take off your shoes right when you get in, and then you're in slippers for the rest of the time you're in the whole. Anytime you're inside, you're in slippers. You're in your house shoes. So it was definitely a frustration trying to get them on and off each time.
Or you could just be like me and wear slip-ons.
Exactly. Well, and I had a pair of slip-ons like last year, but they weren't very warm. That's the thing. I don't have warm shoes that are slip-ons.
Yeah, I bought fleece-lined ones specifically for it.
Yeah. So maybe I should have done that.
I tried to tell you.
Yeah. Well, live and learn.
So, anyways, we got all settled, and we stood. There's a feeders like right as you walk in past the front desk. There's
like a fire.
Oh, really?
A really nice fire pit that's sunken down, so you can sit around this thing and enjoy the fire.
And then
feeders right there.
And they were doing the same kind of thing that they do at Bog, where they have like chunks of meat hanging there for tits to feed on, because they need those kind of calories. Exactly. And so in these cold places, oftentimes they'll put like a deer carcass out on a tree form.
Yeah, and it doesn't spoil because it's below freezing, so the meat's frozen. So these birds will come up and grab off chunks of frozen meat off of the carcass.
So we watched the feeders for a few minutes. We had marsh tit and Asian tit, great spotted woodpecker, Eurasian nuthatch. They came over, the folks at the hotel came over to ask us like what we wanted for dinner. So Koji helped us navigate that situation. And then we went off to our room, which our room was a Western style, and it was like a half mile through the hallways to get there.
I feel, honestly, it's probably because we were barefoot. It felt like it was a full mile. Like it was this lodge is gigantic.
Yeah.
And it's multiple buildings that are all linked together. So you're indoors the whole time, but it's multiple buildings that have been connected together through these hallways. So we went up one elevator, down another elevator, up a third elevator. It's just up and down and up and down and up and down. It took us, it felt like an hour to walk all the way down to our room, which is fine. It was just way the heck down there. But it was just like, I didn't realize this building was so huge.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't look that big.
It doesn't look that big, but we just kept going and going and going. And we got to our room, really nice room. And like because you're barefoot, heated floors everywhere. So it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of nice.
And they have a couple spots throughout the hotel where there's like lounges, and they have these little like coffee machines that like you can, that aren't like a vending machine, but more like just a regular coffee machine that has like 3 or 4 different things. And it was like hot coffee, hot tea, hot water, and then what was it, corn pottage?
Corn pottage, yeah.
Neither of us were brave enough to try that, but I'm disappointed in us.
I should have tried some.
I know, and I like corn. It was just like, I don't feel like drinking a corn thing unless it's whiskey. So we got all settled in our room. We stepped outside and onto the balcony because it overlooks a river, and Koji had said that sometimes dippers will come through there. So we watched for a dipper for a little bit. No luck there. So we headed back to the lobby to meet Koji to do a little bit of birding. Yeah,
so we went out birding. Honestly, found nothing. It was late afternoon. I think we ended up with like 2 species, and I don't even think I ended up submitting a checklist for it because it was like just a couple of herd-only tits and then just like 1 like nuthatch that we saw. So it was not very birdie in late afternoon in this around the lodge. So it's like, all right, well let's just go back and get ready for dinner. So we went back. Koji went up to his room. We decided, you know what, let's get a beer from the vending machine. So
and hang out by the feeders.
Hang out by the feeders. So we went over to a vending machine, got a couple of beers, sat down at the fire pit table, and just sat there and watched birds. And I think there was a wine and a beer is what we got.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there enjoying that, and they had a whiteboard up that has like a calendar of the last like month of like the owls came at this time and all of this stuff. So it's like, okay, well, in Koji, I feel like we didn't even really mention this really, but owls come here.
Yeah.
that was kind of almost our target for the evening. Is this location? It's along a creek, and the Blakiston's fish owl comes pretty frequently to this lodge, and they have an interesting setup that's a little bit more commercially than the other setup.
The night before, when we were in the blind, in the cold and everything, Koji had it in his head that like, well, if we don't get it today, we're at least probably going to get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had told us that, but we also really wanted to see it there
as early as possible. That way we're not missing out.
Yeah. So anyways, we were drinking a beer and everything, and then all of a sudden somebody like starts pointing out the window, and we go over and look, and there was the female Blakiston's fish owl that was in the trees. Like, it was pretty high up, like 50 or 70 feet up in the trees above the creek, and which was pretty incredible. She got there about 5:40 and sat in the trees for a few minutes.
A minute or two. Just sitting up there at the top, and I took a bunch of photos, like super hard because we're going through glass, and so I'm trying to take photos through the glass, like this super cool owl, just like massive, world's largest owl, standing up there, and it's the female that showed up first, which in owls the female is typically larger, so it's the largest of the largest owls in the world, just sitting up there like like, oh, this is amazing, so cool, and. Like it was within minutes of when it had been there the previous day. So it was like, this is so amazing. But
so I like glued myself to the glass, and I was like trying to get a good look at her. And there weren't that many people like hanging out at the moment.
Point,
there's maybe like 5 or 6 people that were looking at it with us because it was hard to see like up in the trees like that. So she flew away, and it was really exciting, and we're like, oh my gosh, we saw the bird.
So I was satisfied at that point.
Oh, totally.
I've seen the Blakiston's fish owl. Look at that thing. It was just amazing up at the top of the tree. And then one of the staff members like said something, and it was something about being time. So then he goes outside, and he opens up this box that apparently they have an aquarium that they keep stocked with fish, and they're just like fish that are in this aquarium on the deck outside that they swim around. They open it up hoping that the owls come down and feed as if they're feeding in the creek. And that at that time when that guy went outside, that's when Koji walked up, and he's like, oh, he explained to us the female comes basically almost every day. Female has no interest in the fish in that little aquarium feeding station that they have, but the male has some sort of
he has an injured eye.
He has an injured eye, and you can see it in the photos, but the owl has an injured eye, and because of that probably doesn't fish very well. And so the male appreciates the aquarium, will come down, fish a little bit out of the aquarium, and then fly off for the evening. And so we're like, this is weird, but we saw the female. We'd already seen the female come and go, so it's like, all right, well, we saw the owl that has no interest in this whole situation come and go. So it's like, all right, well, the wildest of the two we saw.
Yeah.
And then within a few minutes of Koji showing up, the male comes in and lands, and then works its way down the tree, and then comes down and lands on the aquarium, and it's like, oh, this is really weird. Like it's just sitting here on an aquarium, and it starts fishing.
Yeah. So I think I ended up watching it catch and eat 2 fish out of that aquarium.
Yeah, but it was a whole interesting situation because the male has been coming for
20 years. I think you said, and that's kind of getting to the expected age range, but the female was like a second female that he had been mating with. So who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, they don't know how old the female is. They have an approximation at least 20 years old for the male.
If she's not fishing there, then that means if he ends up dying, that they don't know if the female will bring a new male there.
Yeah. Who knows? Because like they said, like they kept telling us, the female's never eaten out of that aquarium. Never comes down, always comes by. And then the male comes by right afterwards and eats out of there. But if the male passes away for whatever reason, which it's getting close-ish to the end of its time, will they no longer have an owl there? It's a big question mark that they've got at this lodge.
So we were very fortunate though that we got to see it. We got to see it eat. There was a lady doing TikTok live, and I was like, why didn't I think of that?
I know.
I had Wi-Fi.
Good internet, yeah.
Yeah, but I got a ton of videos of it standing at the feeder, and you got pictures. And I am so dumb because I was on the glass. I had like an optimum spot.
I know. You could have like plastered your phone right to the glass.
I had been watching it for like 10 minutes, and I was like, okay, well, I'll make my way to the back so somebody can go in the front. I was like, why did I do that? I'm too nice. So anyways, we got a stunning look at the bird, and we saw the more wild female, which makes me feel better about like having it on my checklist.
We paid the cold tax at the night previous at the lodge, or at that lodge/blind, and then we ended up seeing it in a much more comfortable condition where we're drinking some beer and wine and sitting behind glass in a nice warm room.
Yeah. So about that time, Koji was saying that it's time for our dinner reservation.
We're actually late for our dinner reservation, which is very frowned upon in Japanese culture. Punctuality is important.
But he said that's pretty regular around there because everybody comes for the owl.
Everyone comes for the owl.
The keychain on the hotel room key has a little Blakiston's fish owl
picture of the owl, yeah.
Yeah. So, we went over to dinner. It was more traditional style dinner with multi-courses. It was very fancy. Like each of us had, I don't know, like a dozen different dishes in front of us when we sat down. They typically eat more fish in Japanese culture, which of course I have to be difficult, and I don't eat any fish, any seafood, any seaweed at all. But they were able to accommodate me with beef and tofu, and I really appreciate that they did that, because I was going into this, I knew I was going to be a problem. And I was like, if you just feed me rice, that's fine. I'll eat rice. So that was, super nice of them.
Yeah, so I had a nice big rockfish. Koji and I split the rockfish and then had a whole bunch of other courses. 12 courses, 15 courses. It just kept going and going and going. Every few minutes they bring another thing out. It's like, oh man, this meal just keeps going.
And we had some sake with it too. So that was a fun evening. Yeah.
So then from there, went back on the way back to our room. We stopped by one of the lounge rooms and got some ice cream, some more milk flavored ice cream.
Yeah.
It was nice and soothing to our stomachs before we headed to bed. So the amazing stay at this hotel. Comfortable beds, big room, spacious, like really nice hotel. I
had a nice buffet breakfast again.
But we next morning we loaded up. Did a little bit of birding around the lodge to start with. Great spotted woodpecker, Eurasian jay, long-billed crow, handful of just
large-billed crow.
Large-billed crow. It was kind of a nice little leave the lodge sort of list. We were hoping for dipper, no dipper, so I was like, all right, well, at least we got a couple of good looks at the great spotted woodpecker, which is always fun to watch. But from there we left and headed over to try to find an Earl owl. At a location that Koji knew about.
And it was just a stretch of the highway, a stretch of a backcountry road. That was very icy.
Oh my gosh. I didn't realize how icy it was, because Koji's just driving along like normal, pull over, no problem. And then we get out and it's like, oh geez, I'm going to die. I'm going to break my neck. it was literally a solid sheet of ice.
And it was sloped down.
It was sloped down. I don't know how he drove and stopped. It made no sense to me. I don't really understand the physics of, we didn't have any studded tire. We didn't have anything like that. We're just driving along and he just stops. And it's like, this is weird, but sure. Okay, cool.
Anyways, it was kind of on a sloped hill that went down to a stream. And he said that the Ural owl had been seen in a tree right next to the road, mm-hmm. which it's a pretty substantial owl. So we would have seen it if it was there. We scanned throughout that whole forested area. There was kind of a planted forest, like a monoculture forest that was across the road, and we heard it call
from the middle of that whole forested stand that was really thick.
Like 4 or 5 times we heard it call, but we never ended up seeing it.
We could not find it. But while we're out there, these people show up on like random tours. I guess they were also looking for the owl.
Yeah.
I'm not completely clear on all of what they were doing there, but one of the other cars showed up and he's like sliding sideways down the road. And it's like, how did Koji not do this? I don't really understand what they did differently. Because then when we loaded back into the car, Koji drove past the same spot that they were slipping and sliding in. And he just like drove down, turned around, and came back out.
I have no idea.
I don't know. He has some special maneuvers with this car. He's some special ways with this vehicle that we had. It was interesting. But yeah, we were slip sliding like on our feet, like gonna slip and break our necks. Yeah. But yeah, no visual on the owl. I didn't end up making a list for it because it was like, I'm not gonna feel good about putting a herd only for an owl that you can usually see. It's not like something like a common paraki or like a Chuck Will's widow or something that you hear call and you hear it call all night long, and so you list it because it's really easy to hear. So this is different. This is an owl that you should be able to see.
Everybody has their own list qualifications.
List how you want to list.
We decided not to add this to our list.
Yeah.
So that's us.
Yeah. So from there, we headed to this nature center park area that was like most of the way to the airport because we're flying out that afternoon. Go down to Kyushu. One of the southern islands, the southern big island of Japan. But since we're flying there, we had a little bit of time. We stopped at this visitor center, pretty close to the airport, that didn't really have that many birds going on, but it had red-crowned cranes, a couple of crows,
But it was a big boardwalk that went out and around through a marsh. We ended up walking about 1.5 miles.
Yeah. So it honestly reminded me of if anyone's seen the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie, the Peter Jackson one, when they're going through the dead marshes, Frodo and he's getting led by Gollum, and they're going through this marsh, and it's like this weird coloration to the water where they're seeing like these candles floating. This marsh, I think I have some photos. I'll try to share them on social media. This marsh that we were walking through, it looked like that. Like the way the ice was frozen and the ice had like froze to the plants and then water was flowing over the top of the ice gave it this weird ethereal look to it that was kind of like, this is kind of creepy. As we're walking along.
And then red-crowned cranes calling in the background.
Yeah. It was like, and it's like, this whole thing, I'm feeling really weird about this. But
I haven't seen the movie, so I don't get it.
But any Lord of the Rings fans out there, I'm sure it'll look familiar if you see some photos of this. But it was really interesting habitat, but not really very birdy.
No.
So, but it was fine. It was just kind of like a time killer spot to kind of see some other habitat, see some other interesting things. We're hoping to find some woodpeckers, but not really any that were active then. So
I think it was just way too cold.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but it was. We wandered around, used the restroom there. Nice restroom. Every bathroom
nice
that we used.
Nice little nature center.
Yeah, nice little nature center. Every single bathroom that we use is nice. Like, honestly, that's the big takeaway for me from Japan.
If you're concerned about like bathroom on a trip, like Japan is a place to go.
Japan is a place to go. You're going to find bathrooms everywhere.
Yeah, and they're going to be heated toilets, even out in the middle of nowhere.
Even out in the middle of nowhere. But we went down to the airport, not that far away, like 10-15 more minutes. Turned in the rental car, loaded up, and started to get. Actually, one more thing. Right before we got on the plane, we saw this group of other tourists from a mix of Australia and other places that were together. They were all wearing this Seiko Mart shirts.
Yeah.
That was the main convenience store in Hokkaido. And I saw the shirt and was like, oh, I'll just buy it at the next stop. They didn't have it in any other Seiko Mart, so we went to it. They just had it at the one, and now, again, massive regret. I wish I would have bought the Seiko Mart shirt when I saw it. It was the main convenience store in Hokkaido. It's like the local convenience store. And this group of tourists that were there, that we met at the airport, were so proud of their shirts. They're all wearing them.
All bought them.
And so I was like, hey, how much can I pay you for one of those shirts? And they're like, you can't. It's like, man, missed opportunity. And we tried to look online, and I don't think you could buy it online.
I don't think they send it to America.
Send it to the US, yeah. So I didn't get a Seiko Mart shirt. I wish I would have.
Oh well, maybe I'll make you one.
Maybe next time we go to Japan.
Yeah,
I'll have to buy some. Yeah. So great time in Hokkaido. This is our time to say goodbye to Hokkaido and go down to some warmer weather down in Kagoshima, on the island of Kyushu, down south. But it's great.
Yeah, it was freezing cold, but really interesting.
Yeah. So if you want to hear more about Japan, one more episode coming out about Japan in the south of Japan. So very, very excited to talk about that last little bit. We have all sorts of cranes, and there was a lot more diversity of birds down south than there is up north.
Yeah, definitely.
But that'll be a couple more weeks from now. But thank you guys all for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it and or learned something new. Please, please, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Music, or anywhere else you listen to us. If you'd like to connect with us on the socials, you can follow us at Hannah Goes Birding and Eric Goes Birding on Instagram. You can follow our Facebook page at Hannah and Eric Go Birding, or you can send us an email at hannahyandericgobirding@gmail.com. You can also check out our website at www.gobirdingpodcast.com. Tell us what you think and share the love of birding with your friends. Beep, beep, beep.